Hi there, I'm Fred Holmes, and you're watching a podcast where nostalgia comes to life. It's called Jake's Happy Nostalgia Show. Roll it.
Welcome to Jake's Happy Nostalgia Show, where nostalgia comes alive. Join Jake and his friends on a journey through pop culture of the past, where they interview professionals in the worlds of acting, directing, writing, puppeteering, and so much more. Who will they be chatting with today? Find out in this Jake's Happy Nostalgia Show episode.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to this episode of Jake's Happy Nostalgia Show, the podcast where nostalgia comes alive. Happy you're with us. Thank you for joining. Of course, I'm your host, Jake Duffenbaugh, and today, of course, our co-host, Chris Bixby. How's it going, my friend?
Doing good. Hello, everybody. How are you doing, Jake?
I'm doing great, as always, Chris. Thank you for asking.
Yes, we had a wonderful, amazing interview for you folks. Someone who shares a lot of stories about how certain things for very well-known children's series are made, but I won't waste any more time, Jake. Why don't you tell everyone who the guest is and what this person's done?
Yeah, exactly. Thank you very much, Chris. So today's guest we have in this wonderful episode, production designer, the amazing Bob Lavallee. We talked about, from his start to getting to work, from early on from his career, getting to uh, talk about his theater work and getting start off professionally, getting start from that side. And then from obviously getting to talk about, some of the productions, theater that he got to do. And of course, from doing a little bit of that, transition to Barney. Of course, he got to, yes, be a production designer for Barney and Friends from season 4 to all the way up to season 14. So he did like 10 seasons of it. So yeah, of course, you got to talk, a lot of things of him from, getting to work on Barney for many years. Obviously getting to talk about, the from his production designer aspect, from talking about what was kind of the process getting designed for a certain sets for certain home videos and episodes as well that he got to do for many years on Barney. And of course, yes, he actually got to share a lot of the sets he got to a sketch, and then how came from that to actually on the show. And it was so cool getting to kind of see how that process from seeing all of them from his process to how it actually is on the show. So it was pretty cool getting to see that. A lot of wonderful sets that you got to do, obviously. And from obviously with the caboose and the treehouse and
Whole bunch of sets.
yeah, exactly. It's just amazing. And and of course and of course recently got to kind of come back with theater stuff with live theater. He's kind of involved doing that as a recent, but it's just so much fun talking to him with a lot of Barney stuff that you got to talk about there, that we all got to talk about. It's just amazing. So without further ado, without yapping too much, enjoy this wonderful chat with amazingly Bob Lavallee. See you then. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Jake's Happy Nostalgia Show, the podcast where nostalgia comes alive. Today, we have with us is the wonderful Bob Lavallee. Welcome, Bob. How about you here?
Hi, you guys.
Hi.
Hello. Hello. Great for you to do this. It's gonna be
Yeah,
fun.
me too. Gosh, it's been a long time since I worked on Barney, so I hope my memory is sufficient.
No
And
worries at
uh
all.
and of course, thanks to the wonderful Fred Holmes for putting us in touch.
Yeah, he's a
Yeah,
great,
yeah,
great
Fred.
guy.
Woo!
Yeah,
Great
He's
he's
just the
guy.
awesome.
best.
Love Fred.
Great friend of, yes, great friend of ours. Great big supporter, and yeah, glad I got. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it's um, yeah. Thanks again for doing this.
Sure, sure.
Yeah, wonderful. Glad to have you here indeed, of course. So to start this off, of course, we know who you are, but for those who don't, could you tell our audience a little bit about yourself and what you do?
Yes. prior to working on Barney and Friends, I was a theatrical set designer, and I was working for Peter Wolf in Dallas. And prior to that, I was at Casa Manana Theater and for 5.5 years in Fort Worth as their resident scenic designer. And then I went to a Dallas firm called Southwest Studios. And after a year being there, I went to work for Peter Wolf for 3.5 years. And while I was at Peter, that's how I got introduced to the producers at Barney.
Nice. Wonderful. And of course, we'll touch base more on that a little later on. So kind of going back to the beginnings a bit, like where did you grow up and what things interested you most as a kid?
I grew up in New England. I've been living in Texas for a long time, but I grew up in New England in in Winooski, Vermont, next to Burlington. It's a suburb. And, as a kid, I could say that I was very interested in making stuff and art and painting. And I seem to have pursued that. I remember myself setting up a little place for me to paint in the cellar of our house, which had a dirt floor. And I remember doing that. And also remember being like 10 years old and getting on the bus and going to Burlington to the Robert Hull Fleming Museum. And I would do that by myself because I don't think any of my other friends were interested in going to the museum. So I would go to the museum and they had these great exhibits that were permanent. One of them was on armor and all of this stuff, and it was so interesting. But they also had exhibit rooms that changed all the time, paintings. There's always new artists. So I was so interested in that. So I would say that that was when I was old enough to get out by myself. And of course, at that time, when you were younger, it was easier, 50 years ago to just kind of come and go as you please. And so anyway, yeah.
Lovely.
Nice, wonderful. So, now I know you kind of already, in the way touch base about you going to museums and kind of start to like kind of talk, mesmerized, seeing all these, different aspects of stuff with, designs and all that. But to more to that, I just want to ask, what made you kind of first like realize that you wanted to work in production and set design like professionally?
Well, that was, most people's lives are not a straight line. Some people know I kind of knew what I wanted to do. I always knew I wanted to be an artist of some sort. So I pursued that. And so back at that time, it was the Vietnam era. That's how old I am. And I decided to enlist in the Air Force instead of being uh, pulled off the street and sent to Vietnam. So when I enlisted in the Air Force, I became an illustrator in the Air Force, which is really kind of odd. So at the end of basic training, they would talk to you about your skills, and you took a test and whatever. And they said, well, any of you who have a talent that it's not listed here. And so all the musicians raised their hands, radio and TV production guys raised their hands, architects, designers, and they were all there. They didn't want to be there, but it was during the draft of Vietnam, so they were. And so I ended up taking an Air Force art test and then ended
Interesting.
up, and yeah, I know. And
Wow.
it was very basic, it was like how many heads high is the perfect body and which one of these pictures is composed correctly, and they'd be like half of a body cut off. It was so easy. So I ended up being an illustrator of tech manuals at Shepherd Air Force Base in Wichita Falls. So from there, I was there a year. My grades in high school were not that great. And someone said to me, well, why don't you go take some classes at the college? I said, oh, my grades, they weren't that. No, you could take a night class. So one thing led to another, and I started taking printmaking classes, is like etching and lithography, stone lithography. If you guys don't know about that, it's drawing on limestone and then making prints from it. It's more complicated than that, but that's a longer discussion. So I did that. And then my painting instructor and I got along really well. And I was out of the Air Force at the time, and our ages were probably 4 years apart. So my teacher and I got an outside off-campus painting studio. And and so we did that for like 8 months, and then the rent went up, and we ended up needing another studio. So there was this gal that I knew who was affiliated with this community theater, and she said, well, the third floor of this building they're not using, and I'm wondering if they would let you use the space up above as a studio. And they did. They said, yeah, we'd love another discipline in the building. So, and this is the story I tell, and it's so interesting. So I would come in the building, and my background was fine art, alone in your studio, painting, going to save the world. And I looked down the hall to
Right.
all these theater people, and they were all extroverted and hugging on each other. None of that going on in the art department. We were all solitary. So one day I was there about 3 months. There was a rap on the door of my studio, and this little timid voice said, I'm sorry to bother you, Mr. Lavallee, but what kind of paint would I use to paint on this plastic to make stained glass? Well, one thing led to another, and 3 months later, I had designed the set, painted the set, met my wife, met my future wife, the choreographer, and said to myself, "Wow, these theater people really know how to party." So that got me into theater design, and I would do this for free because I thought I would see the sets that they would do, and I knew nothing about it. I didn't have any training, and but I said to myself I could do better than that, and I didn't build anything. I would draw pictures and others would build it, and I would paint it. So one thing led to another there. And so I ended up having a relatively decent portfolio of stuff that I did, and eventually got paid a few shekels here and there, and did some stuff for Red River Lyric Opera and in Wichita Falls. Then a friend of mine who had moved to Fort Worth, Texas, said, I called her up and I said, the economy's not doing really well. And I said, do you have any scene painting work in Fort Worth? She said, well, yeah, maybe, but Casa Manana Theater's set designer is leaving. You should bring your portfolio and interview. I did. They hired me. And 5.5 years later, I had designed way more many shows than I could have even imagined. And it was a grand learning experience. And that really is how I got into designing for live theater. And I could continue the story, which then segues into getting into Barney. So would you like me to do that?
Absolutely. And the other question I kind of wanted to ask on top of that, like, was Barney like, kind of like the first TV thing you did, or were there like other like
Oh
TV
yes,
shows that you
yes,
did before that?
exactly. And there's a whole sort of thing there about that. So at Casa Manana, I was there for 5.5 years, and I felt like I needed to leave. I wasn't being paid that well, but I felt like I could do better. So I ended up at a design build firm in Dallas. And design build firm is we design stuff and we build it at the same time, not just building stuff for other designers. So, and they did some, shows and, some theme park work and that sort of thing. After a year, that company kind of folded, and I found myself at Peter Wolf's and Dallas. And Peter Wolf was an eminent regional designer. He had been there for years, and they hired me as their senior designer. So while I was there, these producers showed up from Barney and Friends and wanted an addition added to their present set, which had been designed, I think, by Victor DiNapoli. Let me get that right. I don't think it was Victor who designed this set. And in fact, I'm not absolutely sure who did that, to
Was
be
it
honest
Was
with
it
you.
Jess Nelson?
It could have been Jess, you
Yeah,
know. And so
Got it.
I'm remiss here with my chronology of the set.
you're good.
All good.
So I went there and saw what needed to happen, and I knew nothing about television, knew nothing about camera work, nothing. But I saw where they were wanted what they wanted me to do, and I did it. And but I saw that there was a section of the set that was not shootable. And so just on a whim, I had them come and to back to the studio and showed them what they wanted from me to do. And then I said, "Oh, by the way, if you're thinking about shooting 360, you could do this." And so I showed them how they could do that. And they were like, "Wow, wow, that's really cool. We're going to do that." So they did. So a year goes by, and they decided, and the best story I got from this was they loved Victor. Victor was doing all their sets, all their home video stuff. But, they had to fly Victor down from New York, and that wasn't a problem. It wasn't the cost, it was just the proximity of having the designer close to what's being done on a daily
Right, because
basis.
at the time he had been working on Sesame
He
Street.
was, he was. And
Right.
they loved him, but they said, "We need somebody here on the ground. What about that guy last year at Wolf Company?" So from there, they came to Wolf Company and they said, "We would like to hire Wolf Company, but specifically Bob within Wolf Company to design our set, our new set." So I remember Ben Vaughn. I don't know if you've heard about Ben Vaughn and who he was. He was a producer
Yeah, yep.
and he had passed, and I loved Ben Vaughn. I think his claim to fame was doing Benji movies.
Okay,
Uh,
yeah, yeah.
so
Maybe,
um,
yeah.
I remember Ben Vaughn took me into Studio A at Las Colinas, which was a year earlier was the location at which I did those changes to the set. And now it was completely empty. There was nothing. And this was the largest sound stage in the state of Texas at the time. And he walked me in there and he said, "Bob, this is where we want you to create Barney's new world." And I can tell you, I had not done any television. This was a huge deal. Here was this already established global children's television phenomenon. And now it was on me to create his new world. And as I tell this story to people, the only thing I could think of at the moment Ben said that to me was vomiting on the floor because it was such a it seemed like such a bunch of pressure to be able to do this. On the other hand, I had been designing for years and years, and I know about the pressure of designing. And what you do is you just take it one step at a time, like anything else, and you work on it, and you take it slowly and work on it, and you go up to the imagined space and you bring it back down. You go up to the imagined space, you bring it back down. And so I knew how to get over my own trepidation there. So yeah, so that's when I designed a new playground, classroom, tree to the tree house
Yep.
and the tree house itself. And so that's the chronology of how I got from Vermont to Texas to Casa Manana to Peter Wolf's to Barney and Friends. And so after being at Peters for 3.5 years, it became evident that I needed to leave and go on my own as Barney's production designer. And so I was only Barney's production designer through Peter Wolf's for probably a year and some change. And then after that, I went freelance and they hired me and set me up with a great staff. I can tell you, they were just awesome, awesome people to work with. Elizabeth Velton was my production gal. She was so awesome, so good, so good. Um, she would set my day. I'd come in and she would tell me my whole schedule and what had to be done and who I was meeting and
That's awesome. Wow.
Nice.
all the props I was going to be looking at that day and choosing this, that, and the other. She was my art director. Yeah, awesome.
Nice.
Nice. Nice. So, obviously, before we kind of go more to talk about, with the treehouse and all that. Now, I'm kind of curious, were you like, were you aware at the time of how popular Barney was when you started working for them? Like, did you like know Barney at all before getting to start working for them? That about the
N-
whole, how
Nothing.
popular that Barney was?
Nothing. I knew nothing of Barney. I wasn't familiar with I was older then too,
Yeah.
and but
Yeah.
and Barney had only been around, I got there season 4, so you can tell you how
Hmm.
early that was. And so I was in my 20s when that was happening, and I went, Barney who? So anyway, so I schooled myself as to who this was and how big Barney had become. So yeah, it was a learning curve, and I want to tell you this. So why Jim Rowley? I remember Jim Rowley told me why they chose me to do this, even though I had um, no video experience, was because Casa Manana Theater, when I worked there for 5.5 years, was a theater in the round. So all the scenic elements you had to make to put on stage had to look good 360 degrees. He knew that hiring a designer that only worked in a proscenium venue where you're just looking straight on at something was different than having a three-dimensional sensibility. Okay, does that make sense?
Yeah. Hmm.
So he said,
Yeah.
because the cameras can be anywhere. And
Yeah, exactly.
so he said, I knew right away you would have this three-dimensional sensibility and be sensitive to not just flat imagery. Okay.
Nice. Nice. And well, one thing I also want to talk about too, and you brought up several good points on this too, is kind of like all of like everybody who worked on Barney, whether it be like the cast and the crew, such as yourself, got along very well. And we've had a lot of Barney people on in the past, and they've talked about how much of like a family it like just
Yeah.
everyone on Barney treated it.
Yeah.
It
Absolutely.
absolutely. There was no like there was no drama, backstabbing. There was none of that going on at all. I mean, people would say, well, yeah, sure, Barney, I can imagine. No, it was just a great bunch of creative people who had tons of energy and wanted to make the best possible product they could make. And they were all so very invested, talented, and made it their own. And to this day, those people are in my memory as just a wonderful experience. So,
Absolutely. And it lasted for 14 seasons.
oh my
Yeah.
gosh, oh my gosh, hardly any television production lasts that long.
Yeah.
It's 3, 4 years and then kaboom, they're gone.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it was so great. And one of your questions was one of your fond memories. My fond memories are the people. The people were fantastic. Has anyone ever talked to you about the Make-A-Wish Foundation things we would do?
Oh my
I think
goodness.
a little bit, yeah.
Ah,
We've had Julie and Patty on who voiced Baby Bop and BJ, and they've talked a little bit about getting to do that. Obviously, of course, Barney did a majority of those, but we've talked to them about that too, and kind of like what that was like getting to, you know, kind of be a friend to these children who are so ill.
Well, let me say this to give you a picture of what that was. First off, it was noted that because we were in a building where there wasn't a big sign that said Barney's produced here. It was just like you wouldn't know what was going on in the building, okay?
yeah.
But occasionally, and so there was a lobby when you walked in. Whenever there was a child that was brought into the building past the lobby, and we did not know where they were going. Well, they were with an adult, whatever.
Yeah.
Everyone was alerted there was a child in the building to make sure that children did not witness dinos in half costume, or
Yeah,
dinos
yeah.
dinos with
Yeah. Yeah, it's
dinos
not.
with their
Yeah.
head off or
Yeah, that'd
something.
be terrible.
We wouldn't want to
To keep the illusion,
scar the child with that. So then it
Because the
came.
dinos are real,
I know to them, and
Yeah,
as it should be.
exactly.
Um, so during Make-A-Wish, we knew that was happening that day, and we were shooting. We were working, shooting, but we knew what time they were going to show up, and we knew how much time we were going to spend with them. And so oftentimes they showed up in a limousine out front, and then parents and or caretaker along with someone from a Make-A-Wish, I'm sure, uh, we take them down the hall to the studio, which is fully lit as we're shooting, so it's beautifully lit, whatever. Cameras are there, producers are there, and they come in, and the dinos are there to greet them. And it was heart-wrenching sometimes, they would hug the kids would hug the dinos, and then they would get with them and sing a song, and they would make a recording of this, a video. Some of them were in wheelchairs. Some of them were older adults who, were not that developed. And so, and we all knew that these children did not have much time on this earth.
Yeah.
So I was one of their last wishes to do this. And we did that. I can't say exactly how much we did that, probably once every 2 months or something. I don't know exactly, but it was always a wonderful, heart-wrenching, but wonderful thing to witness.
Absolutely, yeah. We've heard a lot of wonderful stories about
Yeah,
that,
I've heard a
yeah.
lot of wonderful stories. If Jordan or Carrie or Josh,
Yeah, yeah,
get to
yeah.
do this type of stuff like that, and it's it's there no matter even Carrie got to say about his podcast or something, there's no sadness in the hospital. Every kid I got to see Barney
Yeah,
in the
yeah,
hospital, or
yeah.
not just Barney or BJ Baby Bob with
Sure, sure,
even or
sure.
something. They were so happy to see them. They didn't think about what's happening with them. The most important thing happened is their
Right.
friend was there.
Exactly,
It's just the
exactly.
most amazing thing.
Yeah, or
It
A
was
lot
also
of wonderful stories
it
about
was
that.
also with like kids who didn't really speak much prior, but yet when
Yes,
they see Barney, they're singing I Love You or like any of the
wow,
or
songs
or
wow.
like
or, or like yeah, or I'm thinking right now, right away is one of the things that Carrie got to do where see Barney is seeing Barney for a kid that it was a certain child that hasn't spoken in 2 years until
My
that moment.
gosh.
It's
I
like
I hadn't heard that story, but that's
that is
fantastic.
just
Yeah.
yeah.
that's real as it gets with Barney Magic, and it's just amazing.
Well, what was
It's
really
terrible.
wonderful about Barney is that he was a live action uh, product. You had children who were in the show, but they were singing and dancing and part of the storyline that other children could identify with themselves while they're watching this, as opposed to being an animation. The live action part of this made it all so very special, you know?
Definitely.
Exactly. Like if you, for example, and all these cast and the crew and the body actors and the kids, are like they're not do like they're like their mindset to the show, like and you as well, obviously, like it's not going there to do that show for a paycheck. No, it's like all responsibility. Like it's like everyone loves Barney, that they just want the show to be like as like it's it's more than that. It's more to it's like the importance of like for doing something for a special friend that we all know. It's just
Well,
you know.
and you've heard about the Barney Bible, have you?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, yes, Steve, yes, yeah.
Did you
Yeah,
ever
Wonderful
see
Steven
what
got to
see did
talk
you
a
ever
little bit of
see
it.
one of those or have one of those Barney Bibles?
No, but I know when we interviewed
No.
Stephen White, he talked a lot about the Bible and kind of like what it was.
Yeah.
Well, and let me say this. It was so important to Dennis DeShazer, one of the founders of Barney, to guard what Barney was and what Barney was not. Because it was so easy for a new writer to come in and start writing storylines that took Barney in a different direction than was part of that whole Barney Bible thing. The Barney Bible thing uh, said basically what Barney was and what Barney was not. And it was a guide for me, about what to do and what not to do design wise, also in a peripheral kind of way, but it was a guide, and that was an important part of how I thought about what I was doing while I was designing.
Right. Like when you started on Barney, like how much kind of creative freedom did you have like early on?
Okay, first off, as a designer, a set designer, you are bound by reality.
Hmm.
You're bound by physicality of the world. You're bound by uh, physics. You're bound by time. You're bound by the budget. You're bound by the acquisition of materials. So that is the kind of like everyday sort of nuts and bolts stuff about getting stuff done. On the other hand, when you're handed a script, and the script is describing things within the storyline, you
Yeah.
get to what I love to call, you get to go up into the imagined space. And I don't when I do this for theater or where I do this for Barney, I don't edit myself as I'm in the imagined space. I just allow myself to just float and imagine all kinds of things. Now I know in my heart, there are certain things that I can't do. I can't float a giant rock over the ocean, because it's physically not possible. So,
Right.
and that's a silly example, but the point here is within the confines of the storyline and the confines of the budget and the confines of time, I was basically given carte blanche to come up with designs. The very few times, and I can't even remember what they were, when I would do a presentation to the producers in a design meeting, there was hardly ever any pushback. It was always sort of, they were just really happy to see what I had come up with. and then I would walk through with what it was and how it was and why it was. And there may be some massaging here and there, but most of the time I feel like they just allowed me to run with it. And the product of 14 years is what that running ended up being.
Nice. Nice.
That's great. Um, so now so obviously because Barney was geared in towards children. Can you kind of talk about like how did you like approach designing sets that kept the Barney magic alive without making them like too like overwhelming?
So when you say ask that question about too overwhelming, what are you imagining would be overwhelming?
Like sets that are kind of like too out there, kind of like too distracting. So,
Yeah,
the
yeah, that kind of like too much, like the distraction that you should like look to the bar and the kids, and then like look into the sets. I don't know. It's just
So were there any of those Barney sets that you saw that would be on the edge of that?
I don't think so. No, the what I always
me.
felt
No, I don't think so.
what I always felt was great about Barney was even though like I mean from a child's perspective, definitely the sets, looked realistic because there was like, a park and everything, but
Yeah.
they and there were some like fun creative things, but they weren't like super overwhelming. Like the kids could still like look at Barney and the kids without, just feeling too distracted by the sets.
Right, right. Well, first off, as I tell people, when you have a giant magenta thing in the shot,
Yes.
it's hard to
Yes.
not look at that giant magenta thing.
Yeah.
And so there are
Hmm.
pictures I have where I go, oh, all the stuff going on and tons of people in the park, and kaboom, there's Barney. So there's that. But when it came to, so there were basically two worlds to Barney because that's the way it is. Barney comes into your imagination from your imagination. Barney is not out there first. Barney comes alive through the plush, through imagining playing with the plush, and that's always the springboard catalyst, whatever. Most of the time, until we got later and other sets were imagined. But so there's realism like the park. There's realism like the treehouse. The treehouse is real. It's not a big fantasy. It may be a fantasy treehouse to some children, but it's not like going to some crazy place like Meeby's Planet or whatever. So when it comes to doing those fantasy sets, you know, I don't know how to even describe it. I kind of knew where to go and where not to go to make things. I wanted it to be identified with being Barney-ish. And I don't even know what I mean by that. It ended up being a visual thing that I I can't even explain. I can't put into words what that Barney-ish thing that guided me was. But I knew while I was designing if I felt myself going off course and I would pull myself back again. All well knowing that I wanted to create something new and different that someone hadn't seen before. So it ends up being like trying to explain music. You
Right.
can't, it's hard to put words into explaining just music itself.
Hmm.
So the visuals of the color and going to Baby Bop School or Meeby's Planet or all those revealed themselves to me in somewhat of a feeling of confines where I defined this is a Barney thing. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it definitely
Yeah,
does. And
absolutely.
when you talk about like the home video sets, like for example, like the outer space video with Meebius Planet, I mean,
Yeah, love that
I
one.
I always love kind of like just how like to de just how like detailed these sets are like that the outer space one we can get into this like when we actually look at some of the designs, but like
Yeah.
Yeah.
that's probably like one of my favorite sets that you ever designed, honestly. Like that I love
Yeah,
that
me
outer space
too.
set with
It's
like the like tickle tree or whatever, and like
Yeah,
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 right,
yeah.
yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Oh, it's
Exactly.
so
that
Yeah.
cool.
it's such a
Yeah.
fun set.
And as we go here, I've got pictures of all of that stuff that we're going to see. So,
Absolutely.
Yeah. You're looking forward to seeing that when it gets to that point.
Yes. So now with going back to the treehouse a little bit, so now as you mentioned earlier, that was a set that came before you, but like so now with kind of repurposing that a little bit, like can you t kind of touch a bit on that aspect, like kind of redesigning it for kind of like this new kind of generation with Barney, where there was like, as you mentioned, a new treehouse, a new school set and playground.
right, right. Well, in this case in particular, because as I told you earlier, walking into the empty Studio A with nothing in it and being told that I'm going to now be creating Barney's new world. Well, it's a new old world is what it was, you know. There
Right.
was there was a classroom and there was a tree house.
Yeah.
So now I need to create it anew. So what was really great about that was I had at my disposal Jim Rowley and Jeff Giddle and Ben Vaughn, and they knew what they had prior, and they knew what they as anybody does, whether shooting on a set of any sort, they go, oh, next time if we could have a blah blah blah, next time if we could do it that, so I was informed by them about a wish list that they had. And I can't even remember exactly what that wish list was, but the synergy, to use that overused term, between their wish list and my abilities and imagination and my coming up with suggestions about, well, maybe we could put a camera here and a camera there. Oh, yeah, we like that. So that whole sort of thing of the new world of the new treehouse, and now it's huge size. It's a treehouse bigger than anyone could ever make in a tree. Became a combination of like the four or five of us riffing on what we would like to see. So that's how that came about.
Absolutely. And
Nice.
the cool thing about the treehouse, like I love kind of like the top of it where sometimes you see like some of the kids at the top kind of like imagining and there's like a telescope or something like at the
Yeah,
top.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I like that part of the
Oh yeah,
treehouse a lot.
right, right. Other time we go up the stairs and right,
Yeah.
okay, yeah,
Right,
yeah, I
right.
like
And
that.
and
I like
and
that.
that was in another studio completely. And
Yeah, I
so,
mean, I kind of imagine that. It was just not
yeah,
fun.
so they would go up the stairs and then there would be a transition shot where we would see them come upstairs in
Hmm.
in this thing, and then they would go down this chute to get back down to
Yeah,
the.
but yeah, from the slide. Yeah, yeah, I
Yeah,
like
and,
that.
and
Yeah, I like that
so
one.
those are my ideas, is to do that and how to make it fun, how to make it, so um yeah, they would get up and they would look through the telescope and they would see something. I think they went up there to see, and I could be wrong with this because it's been a long time, that
Oh,
they
good.
saw Pop Wheelie's factory from there, did they? I wonder.
They might have. It's been a while since I've seen that
Oh,
video,
I
but they
Okay,
may
know,
from the
I
have.
one
know.
from around we go via.
Yeah,
Okay,
right.
yeah, it's
Um,
oh gosh,
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
don't
So,
know.
yeah, I
Gotta
don't know
rewatch
either. I
that.
don't know either. But I know that they would go up there and they would use looking out as a catalyst for part of the storytelling or whatever. They weren't
Yeah.
just up there fooling around. It was, and again, the, this was always a thing, writers. had to, and it was always, and I'm sure Stephen White has talked to you about this, they had to tell a story, but the story couldn't be so long in its acting before they got to a song that you would
Right.
lose your audience, and this was always a thing. And especially if they got a new writer. If they got a new writer, it was like, okay, we love your story, but we need three songs within this thing you're describing that is that long. And those songs have to be part of the, like any musical or whatever, songs that we remember and the kids remember and they know, and sometimes new ones. And so, yeah. Um, and so that was always a thing to make sure that we didn't lose children and have song and dance involved for sure as part of the story.
Absolutely.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So since we've been already, touch base with the treehouse part and all that, so how did you kind of like approach redesigning the school set?
Well, first of all, I don't know whether we looked at videos, prior videos, but I'm always
Yes, I don't think
asking.
so, no.
Yeah, I'm always asking directors and or in the case of live theater, what is actually going to be happening in the space? So what do you need practically to be in there? And then how do we put things in that space to make that space versatile so we're just not doing the very same thing all the time in that space?
Right.
So as I
Yeah.
remember that space in my mind, and again, let me say this, in this show, I needed to, which they pounded into my brain, you have to remember you are dealing with this giant creature, Barney,
Yes.
between his snout and his tail. It's almost like a 4 foot if he's going to spin around and do stuff. So you need plenty of room to go up into the tree house and those stairs going up around that tree that we'll get to showing you. That had to be wide enough for Barney to
Hmm.
get up. And so when it comes to the inside of the classroom, I felt like I think there was a little stage area in the corner I put in the classroom. It was a tiny little elevated area that was special. So we could do a little, I don't know what, if they wanted to do a little drama there, they could. And I know I had a sink in there where we had the washing hands song, whatever
Yeah,
Yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah.
brush your teeth or something
You
like
brush your
that,
teeth, brush
or
your
Yes.
yeah.
teeth. And then there was what was that? It was like a closet or no, it was a little
Well,
alcove.
that was behind the tree. So like Barney would just get in just his imaginary closet and just getting certain things
Right. It
out
was
or
like
something
it
like
was like
that.
yeah, like the
Yeah,
tree in the playground. Yeah.
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 I think so. And I'm so sorry, guys. I can't quite remember, but I knew. Here's the interesting. Then I'll show you this. The whole front when you get into the schoolyard. And of
Hmm.
course, there's the play set and the tree, and then there's steps going up to the doors going in into the hall and whatever. But the whole wall, there's another door there that went right into the classroom. That whole wall was what they call in film, video, a wild wall, meaning the entire wall was designed to come out so we could line cameras up to shoot scenes in the classroom. Otherwise, you're stuck up against a wall in the classroom and you can't get that wide shot you need to get Barney's head, because he was 7 foot and some change. Uh, so yeah, so I can't I don't think we stayed in the classroom a lot. I think we did like arts and crafts there, that sort of
And
thing.
also
Some
that the Halloween video was also done there too.
Yeah,
Hmm.
and yes, and some close-up stuff and um Yeah, yeah, yeah. So
yeah, the Barney bag, or
the Barney bag, that was another. I love that Barney bag.
yeah,
Yeah.
me too.
Pull it out of the Barney bag. Yeah.
Yes.
We did some tricks there and pulled out giant things from the Barney bag, Did some split screen stuff or whatever. I can't remember exactly, but
Yeah.
fun, just fun, fun stuff.
Absolutely. So now I think as we kind of touch base on this next question, I feel like it might be a good time to kind of look at, some of your designs. So with, all these sets for, different episodes or home videos, like, are there any that you'd like consider your most favorites over your time with Barney, or sets that you would say like, oh yeah, that one. Like, I'm so proud of how that like turned out.
Well, I do have favorites, and as I look at my notes here, because I wrote notes down from the questions we had talked about, Mother Goose. That
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
and you'll see that was just really a joy to ponder and create and do. It was great. And at that time, I had just hired a new set designer. I was the production designer and came up with the ideas and sketches and whatever. And then I had someone who would draft it up to be built. And
hmm
they're called the set designer. James Clater was his name, and he's not with us anymore. But he came here from Hollywood, and his family was here in Dallas, and he moved here because his wife had family here, and then he was looking for a job, and he came to me to interview for a job. I don't know how he found out that I needed a new set designer, and this guy had a portfolio that was just, I said, James, how are you going to feel being second banana here? Because these are wonderful. He said, "Oh, Bob, I've worked for production designers all my life, and I'm just going to be happy to do what you need from me." And he was great. So anyway, he was a big part of designing Mother Goose. Barney in Outer Space.
Yeah.
yes,
That was
yeah,
another one that I loved.
So good.
It was so great.
of course.
And I guess probably at the top of the list was Santa's workshop, and then getting in the Santa train and going all the
Yeah,
way
uh-huh.
through.
Yep.
That, and
Love
because
the video.
we started in a house set that was, we built this house on the outside and went to the inside of the house, and then from there we went to Santa's outside of Santa's house. And
hmm
and and in my mind, I knew that if you're going to do something about Santa Claus, well, what a tall order of expectation that is from the world, It's like, well, how do you do that without just disappointing people or do something new where people think they thought they knew what they what this was all about, but you're going to show them something different as to what it was really about. So um, so that's when I decided that Santa did not live his living quarters, his living room was not this grand thing. It was humble. It had a low ceiling with beams, and I put a drafting board in there where he went and drew up toys, designed toys, and I had a little toy train that came around that he could put his drawings in, and they would end up going to the shop to the elves, and they would build stuff, whatever. So, and
Yep.
then we went to the giant room, where all the packages were coming out or whatever, and that's where the train was, and the big window and the clock and whatever. So that was the other big set. Yeah. So
Oh yeah.
I those three shows were probably stuck in my mind, and we did a bunch of stuff, as you well know.
Oh
But
yeah.
those three were. Did you guys have favorites that I didn't mention?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Well, I'd say my number one, because I have a few as well, obviously, but I'd say the
I think we might have the same like number one favorite maybe.
well, the number one for me that comes to mind, just because it's always been like another one of my favorite home videos was where you got to design Baby Bop's school.
Oh
Yep,
yeah. Oh
yep,
yeah.
yep.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
the
yeah.
one.
Yes, yes, yes.
Let's play school. Love that video.
Oh, and so here's an interesting little side note there, and I'll tell you about Baby Boss School in a minute. But
Yeah.
as while I had designed this, the designs were done, and how this works is you do the designs, and then you do color. So the color was not done, and I had driven home from Barney, and my drive was probably about an hour there and back. And then I was going to go to dinner with my wife, and for some reason, she followed me in her car. I got I got sideswiped with my car, and my collarbone got broken, and I was a mess. So this friend of mine who had worked for Peter Wolf while I was there, Wade Giampa, who again is no longer with us, helped me with all the color on Baby Bop School. And this guy
Wow.
was his sense of color was just I was in awe of his sense of color, and he was so magnificent. But he came, and I, hired him to come to Barney's studio, and we worked on color together because I could barely move. I would point and grunt, while he was coloring stuff.
Yeah.
So anyway, back to Baby Bop School. What was interesting about Baby Bop School, there could not be any words anywhere because Baby Bop could not read. Okay?
Right,
Yeah.
yeah.
So what kind of school? What do you learn at Baby Bop School? Well, you learn stuff that
Like a baby
about
Bop's mind, yeah.
Like colors
yeah,
and shapes, yeah.
colors and shapes and the
And all the little activities and yep.
trampolines,
Yeah.
and then I think there was,
The painting and the
yeah, I think there
and
was a thing.
obviously the gym, which
You
I
would you
love
would
that
put you
set.
would put a shape and inside of a shape to make it that I
You
can't
make it
remember.
like a bubble or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And so basically, it was sort of fun learning things before you got to learn to read,
Yeah, exactly.
And so it was really a challenge to go, well, what kind of a school would this be without any books or without, did I put books in there?
Yeah. Yeah. There were
Well,
times
if there
on the
were
video where
books, they
they
were
did.
just they were picture books. There was there
Yeah,
there was
like a nursery
no
rhymes kind of a
no
box, something like that.
alphabets, no. So
Yeah.
anyway, that was the challenge there. And then it had to be really fun, looking. So, yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, and then there was also a cafeteria where all Baby Bob served was like macaroni and cheese because that was like their favorite
Exactly.
food.
And I
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I had painted elbow macaroni on the thing exactly.
Oh
Oh
wow.
wow.
Yeah.
Oh gosh.
Yeah. And um the was that the what about the adventure bus?
Adventure
What about
Bus, yeah.
Yeah,
like
the adventure bus.
with
Now
the whole
that
bus?
that was a chore to try to figure how do you put a bus with Barney in it without having it closed up. You got to shoot it, I mean, you can't have a closed bus.
And
And
like
the
how big the size
and
is
the
gonna
and the
be.
bus had to be huge.
Yeah.
And so I came up with
So like
this
I have
but
three dinos in there.
I
And the
know,
kids.
and the kids. And so, well, you
Yeah.
saw what I did, and I do not have pictures of that during this presentation, but um, um, I put Barney up front, and then the other thing is, I think I put Barney in the middle instead of to one side driving, so
Yeah.
that you could shoot past him and get a shot with Barney in the middle and still see the kids behind him,
You know, that makes sense.
singing and
Yeah.
dancing or whatever. And then you could go to the side and you could see them through the windows or whatever. There were no windows. It was just window openings.
Yeah, and the whole
Um,
shot of the bus of them in there or
yeah, yeah,
something,
yeah. And that
like a
that
side.
had that had to have like a blue screen, blue drape on it
Yeah, uh-huh.
in a blue room so we could blue screen them going. So where did we go in Adventure Bus? Do you remember?
So Adventure Bus,
Okay,
I remember
it was like a castle,
there was a
and
Hmm.
there's a
then it
Hmm.
was
castle pizza
and
shop.
then and the pop-up pepperoni pizzeria or whatever they
Yeah, yeah,
called
yeah,
it.
yeah, yeah. I
And
You're trying to make
then
a
remember.
mouthful.
I
And
remember
then
remember that too.
and the
the
Western, and then
Oh,
the
the
circus.
circus.
did we go to Rocking Horse Ranch during that
Yeah,
adventure
yeah,
bus?
Yeah, right.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
We don't have to wheel a horse for that. Yeah.
Okay. I have to, and there was like a fence, and then there was
Hmm.
yeah. Okay, I have a story about Rocking Horse Ranch. You ready?
Yes.
So this again, who else am I gonna ever talk to about this? So Bob, myself, okay, so I had a mural on the wall behind them and the psych, and then we had uh I think we had a few bales of hay or something, and I can't remember, but I had to leave it open for singing and dancing. And I said to my art director, Elizabeth, I said, I'd like some tumbleweeds. Can we get some tumbleweeds? And I'm going, we're in Texas, so surely you could find tumbleweeds. Have I told you this story before? Have you heard this
No,
story?
no.
Okay.
No, I'm just feel like that. Oh gosh, the story is gonna be something. That's why
It it
my
it it
expressions like
it, it
this.
really is. So, and in my mind, I don't ask for like a jet plane or anything. I ask for stuff you can get, like get me some tumbleweeds. So they could not find tumbleweeds. I said, "Do you know somebody in Lubbock, Texas, which is, a more flat area, whatever?" And that's considered, they couldn't find tumbleweeds. And so just for grins, and the internet had not been out very long, okay? People
Hmm.
were using the internet, but it was not what it is now. So the props person uh, looked at the internet looking for tumbleweeds and ran into, I think, a Facebook page. It might not have been a Facebook page. It could have been, I don't know. It could have been just, somebody's page. And there was a picture of a person, this gal, sitting on a fence, a log fence or whatever, and then behind her was this field, and it was full of tumbleweeds. And underneath it, it said Tumbleweed Ranch. So we decided to contact them, you know, and so contacted them and went, um, Tim, Tim Thomaston was his name. He said, "Oh, do you sell tumbleweeds?" And he's describing this phone call to me, and they went, well, yeah." Oh, well, how much are they? Well, the small ones would be, and so they're making this up on the phone, okay? They
Oh my
have
gosh.
never sold a tumbleweed in their life, okay? So we bought tumbleweeds from them. And so you get a tumbleweed that shows up in a box. It weighs nothing. It's like shipping air, you know. So I don't know, we get some 18-inch, 2 foot, and 3 foot tumbleweeds, and then I say, we need more. So we get more from them. And so great. So we shoot the video, wonderful, fine. I don't know how long after, a year maybe after, Tim Thomaston gets a phone call from then People magazine and said, "Can we talk to you about this tumbleweed farm?" Well, here's what happened
Oh boy.
is is this these people went, people will buy these tumbleweeds. And Kansas is noted for just being overrun with tumbleweeds. And they said, people will buy these tumbleweeds. Maybe we could start selling tumbleweeds. Well, lo and behold, they opened up a business on the internet selling tumbleweeds. And people in Germany were buying tumbleweeds for themed restaurants,
Oh my
Western things,
gosh.
you
Oh
know.
my gosh.
And so it's called Prairie Tumbleweed Farm.
Hmm.
And I think I looked it up today, and I think they're still in existence.
Wow.
And they make like 40,000. I don't know how old this article is, but at the time it said they made $40,000 a year selling
Wow.
tumbleweeds. So I thought that was really interesting because I couldn't find the original People magazine article because it talks about Barney and how Barney started their tumbleweed business. And so because they had interviewed them and then they interviewed Tim. So anyway, so that was Rocking Horse Ranch.
Oh man.
Wow. Interesting. Yeah, and the circus for the super singing circus
Oh, the
and
circus. Yeah.
yeah, oh gosh. What did you also design for the night the day and the night the transition kind of like a thing for a good day good night video?
Yes, I did. Good day, good night.
Okay.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, a lot of fun
Um
ones.
yeah, it's oh yeah, and the land make believe stuff as well.
Oh, Land of Make Believe in Universal Studios. Yeah,
Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah. I've got some photographs of that also.
absolutely. And speaking of which, I think maybe it might be a good time that we could maybe look at some of those.
Great,
Yeah,
great.
Yeah.
like
Let me fix my little tight here on my head. So let me share.
Oh yeah,
And
BJ's a really cool house too. Yeah,
yeah,
I remember when we spoke to Catherine Poley, who's Beth, one of the Barney kids at that era. That was one of her favorite episodes because of how amazing the set
yeah.
was, which you did obviously you did a great job on that.
uh, got this recording thing here that's kind of in the way from the beginning, start from set from slide, set up slideshow from current slide. Let's do that. Okay, can you see that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Great. So this was the original concept drawing of the treehouse interior. And then I have photographs of this set when it was built. But so I knew from, like I said earlier, from my discussions with Jim Rowley and Dennis, I'm not Dennis, but Jeff Giddle and Ben Vaughn, that we needed a lot of floor space here for singing and dancing. And then I can tell you this unit right here is on a pivot right there, and it can swing this way. And you see the arrows here? You see that arrow?
Yeah. Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's to indicate to the producers that my intention was that you could swing it that way, and then you could sing and dance in here with cameras shooting mainly in this direction, or you could swing it this way and you could shoot mainly in this direction without this being in your way. Okay?
Right. And then
Yeah.
yeah, and then there's the two doors over there, of course, where Barney and everyone would come in.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's right.
Hmm.
And so
Yeah.
these are just swinging doors, whatever. And and I don't know. I had a hammock in here. This ended up getting built exactly like that. This thing here, as I imagined it, I think I drew this in here because we had one of these in our garage and I was going to bring it and put it there, and I did. So, and then other things, hanging up some stained glass and whatever in the
Yeah, and
windows,
and the stairs where it gets
and
like to the um uh
right. So the idea here was
upstairs.
you could, I don't remember if we actually did this, if this porch went all the way around here so we could see people pass in the window here.
Yeah,
But
like
the
the kids or the diners like walking like through the window or something.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, but the important thing here I want you to know is that there's this elevated area all the way around here.
Hmm.
I could have very well just come in on the ground, but we needed this elevated area because if you have a child that is, look at my cursor, a child that's
Hmm.
that this tall, okay, you want to set Barney on the floor so that Barney now is this tall in relationship to this child, so that you can do a close-up two shot of them without having to pull back all the time. When they're on the same level, in order to get Barney's full body in there and the children, you have to end up shooting a quite wide shot to do that. So this
Yeah.
was all part
Hmm.
of the notion of the design. And then what do we do in this treehouse? Well, you can go up these stairs, and then there's another set of stairs that go up to the pinnacle, as we'll see here. And then, this comes around here, and I didn't want it the same wood all the way around. So now I've got some lattice here, and I've got a porthole and a birdhouse. And, you know, we eventually, I think, where was it? Somewhere over here, we had a puppet location for the little
Oh, for
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 Miss
puppet.
a scooter and Miss Etta, yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, yes. It's I don't know if we might have done Scooter in here,
Or like in like from one of the tree from like one of the tree
but
holes or
Miss
something.
we did do Miss Etta, and that all came later. Miss Etta thing, trying to add
Hmm.
some characters to it. So then we get some leaves here, whatever, and all these tree trunks should look like, well, they're coming from below. But
Hmm.
this is concrete floor here, just painted wood to look like wood. So we were on a level ground here in the studio, but we had to do things to make it look like we were up in a tree. And
Right.
we never, ever, ever saw this wide shot. Okay. First of all, back then, I think we were still shooting 3 by 4 instead of 16 by 9. So we would have just seen, portions of this. And we didn't want to see the full thing. We wanted the treehouse to maybe look like, well, this came around and it actually wrapped around. So this is why if we're shooting in this area and then we're shooting in this area, we almost felt like, well, maybe this thing is just wrapped around like this. So anyway, then we have this bucket here that goes down into this tree, and then it ends up in the schoolyard where kids
Yeah.
could put toys in there and deliver them up
Yeah,
to.
or yeah, where they sit down and just do certain
Yeah,
things on
yeah,
the
yeah, and they
table.
could sit down there, and this was all try to catalyst for storytelling. So let me see if there's anything else in here
And didn't the
that
table like also like spin?
I don't think so.
Oh, okay.
I don't think this table, I don't think this table was on a center pivot with casters.
Hmm.
I could be wrong, but I don't think so. Okay. So then let me go to this next one. And so this is kind of you
There you
can
go.
see how indications of things of differences that I wanted to do ended up finding their way to being part of the design. Like this coming
Hmm.
through a picture frame was part of the design where it came through a picture frame. You see here?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. There you
So
Yeah.
go.
these were all guides to help us get to the variety of things. So we try it didn't look exactly like this, but some of these details were just things that we could put in that would be fun.
Yeah.
So and everything we wanted to bring up here into the treehouse, it's like stuff that was in your grandma's garage or stuff
Yeah.
from a garage sale or stuff you found. So
Yeah.
all this stuff was just, and so we used this wheel a number of times, the ship's wheel in the
Hmm.
song, I'm sure. And then here is the chute right here,
Yeah. Hmm.
Hmm.
the yellow chute. Did I have that in the original design? I did not. I think I came up with that later while we were doing this. So they went up the stairs and they went up and they could disappear behind here, but you could see them kind of go, and then we would cut to the other room and go
Hmm.
upstairs. And then when they was time to come down, they never came down the stairs. They just
Yeah, they came up
zip,
from the slide.
zip,
Yeah.
yeah, came down the slide. So let me move on here because if I talk this long on every picture, we'll be
Yep.
here for 3 hours. So
Stephen and Jeff.
Yep, that's the area I was talking about earlier, like at the
ex
very
ex
top of the
Yep.
exactly.
treehouse.
Hmm.
So, well, what would that look like? Well, I have this thing up here with a bunch of plastic cups so they could see which way the wind was blowing. And you see these right
Hmm.
here. These were like hoses with a funnel on the end so they could communicate down into the
Yeah.
tree
Yep.
house.
Right. Yes. Right.
And so then I had this thing so that
Hmm.
they could pull it if it was raining or whatever. I don't think we ever used this. It was just part of the design. And then we had here, you know, how far things were away, your basics. And then, of course, here was the
Okay.
telescope.
Hmm.
And
Yep.
then we had a hand, I guess, I don't, we had another one of these here up here too, and we had a flag. So let me continue on. So now we're just here in details. I'm going to go from this
Yeah.
picture to a detail of that part of the treehouse. So that's how that turned out. So some of the stuff we used, some of it was just decor. All the writers had these images so they could say, oh, I went over to the ship's wheel and a song. And I remember I put these windows in here to make it look like, oh, the tree's coming from way down. Well, this was the same level on the other side of this. So it was all trying to get that done. So we had a kite here, stained glass window. So how did this all turn out in reality? So we got a stained glass window. It's not the same, but then we brought in, a
All the
dress
stuffed
up,
animals over there.
Like a hat
stu
rack and
a
yeah.
hat rack and
Hmm.
dress up
Yeah.
stuff. And there's the thing from my house I told you I brought. And these drawers, whether they were, some of these were probably just dummy drawers. There were uh, nothing, they didn't even work. There was nothing in them. It was just the implication.
There you go.
Here we go. Yeah.
So here we're at the
The
schoolyard,
school.
and
Yes.
again, this I knew to design this was going to be about singing and dancing.
Hmm.
So it we didn't have any like accoutrement here as far as play stuff. It was mainly levels, and then we put cork underneath it here. But this is the wall I told you. This whole wall you can see this break line here. There were casters under there, and this was just grass glued to a piece of plywood. We'd pull that out, and there
Okay.
was another one over here that you couldn't see. Um, and then
Right.
we'd pull that out all the way to here, and cameras would line up there and shoot into the classroom. So we use this door many, many times, and the ramp. I wanted to put a
Hmm.
ramp in there to make it look like a legit public building with its ramp. And so we use that ramp for singing and dancing and
Yep.
whatever.
Yeah,
Right.
and then like inside the school there was like that bulletin board
Yes.
which was used for like different things.
Eh,
Like
yeah,
Hmm.
for example that one is, a rocket ship and then there were also like there'd be like zoo animals or like colors or just many different
right.
like it could become many different things.
So we would seed the idea of the thing or the part of the video that sprungboard from the schoolyard uh, in the background. Who knows? This could have been, going Barney's rocket ship. We were just showing that while
Yeah.
I took these pictures. So I just, again, some more sort of scenic nerd talk here. These had plastic in them, but the plastic was not vertical. It was actually forward at the top and going back at the bottom so that the lights from the studio did not reflect into the windows so we could see that we were in a studio. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's just some of the nuts and bolts. And all of this was on casters. We could pull that whole thing out and
Right.
line
So
camera.
that's where they can go in and go out when they're leaving for the day. With them,
Yeah,
Barney
but
turns back to the doll or something.
exactly. So, and here's the inside.
Yep.
So, and let me say this, when it came to all of this stuff in here, I probably did some sketches or whatever, but it was my unbelievably wonderful, creative art director, Elizabeth Velton, who like had the people in the art department make all of these characters and stuff because we had to
Yeah,
be
and
careful.
kind of recreate like from the one that was like early on, like
we
season
had
3 or
we
something.
we had to be real careful. We couldn't go out in the world and buy stuff and use it because other things you would buy would have a copyright to their construction.
Yeah, or like they'd have a logo on it or something that you like
Yeah,
couldn't use.
and
Yeah,
if you're using stuff in film like this, you really have to make it all yourself. Otherwise, you have to get a permission from their lawyers to use it in the thing, and it's a whole thing.
yeah,
So as I told you before, this came out, and behind there you could put a camera and see kids washing their hands and do the whole washing hand bubble song,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah. Right. There's one point where they have a bathtub on it for the Good Clean Fun episode or something like that.
right. And
You
and
can
this
have
is
put so many things in there.
and this wall here, like I told you, could move out completely and you could line cameras up out here. So
Hmm.
so now
Yeah.
again,
Yep.
he-
Yep.
here we are to the beefy business of, well, you know, if ever you think of like a ballet dancer and gosh, she's floating, she's just, well, if you were to see pictures of how gnarled their feet are inside their point shoes, then they look like, yes. So this is so, the tree house ended up, we needed all of this very heavy duty welded stuff in order to create that tree. Look at this. We have this like crane in here,
Yeah.
holding these pieces up, and this is all welded together here. And here's a hole for Scooter
Yeah, yep.
Miss yep.
because I knew that Barney would have to come up here and stand somewhere like here, so that if we had Barney here, and not Barney standing way up here, but Barney here, we had to make sure where this hole was and that the puppeteer could be in there working on that. So let me move on.
Yeah,
And
yeah. So now we, like this, the steps won't be like, so now where the kids or the dimes won't like slip or just so they won't
sure,
won't
sure.
hurt themselves.
So, you can see we drew this on the floor, and this, where we started here. And this is
Yeah,
this is really like a projection from these all the way down here, but we needed to see where and how this fit in the footprint in the studio on the floor. So then we build these different layers here, and then we'll put them together like this around this thing. And then we put like wire mesh on that and then a bunch of stuff. And you can see in progress here, here's the wire mesh, and we staple all that down. And then not only that, we've got this bark that we got from an exhibit from a show or an exhibit in Las Vegas that we found on the internet was being sold. And this bark was a cast from a real tree. And then to make that all together, we put our own white foam here and carved that to look like this. Continued on. And so those metal steps, we boxed them in with wood.
Okay, yeah, I see that, yeah.
Okay. Okay. So
okay.
this is, and then here's
There you go.
the finished product, you know.
Yep.
So this was carved foam, and then you cover it with a plastic material that's, you know, like you brush it on, and then it hardens, and then you can paint it. So that's how that all turned out. And look at it. Isn't it glorious?
It's brilliant. Yeah.
It's
Oh yeah.
spectacular.
Absolutely.
It's
And
amazing.
we knew when Barney had to go up here, these things couldn't flex. They had to hold his weight. There
Yeah.
could be six
Yep.
people.
Exactly.
There could be six people on that thing. So we need to make sure that that was that.
Yes, that was when
Yeah. Caboose.
that was
Yep.
during the next generation.
Okay. So now that was the old world.
Yes.
Okay. And we shot a bunch of stuff there with the classroom and the schoolyard and whatever. So it was always a thing. Well, we didn't want to, and let me just go back for a minute here. We didn't want to have to think about if this is a school, well, where are all the kids? Well, we only had our kids, and we didn't want to have to wrangle a bunch of kids during a shoot at a school. So we had Mr. Boyd. You remember Mr.
Yes.
Boyd?
Yeah.
Yeah. Whopper Swimman. Yep.
Mr. Boyd was the janitor. So he was kind of an adult around while these kids were playing in the schoolyard after school. Okay.
Yeah.
And occasionally we'd have a teacher, like the teacher with the rocket ship show or
Yeah. Or
whatever.
and of course Stella,
Of course,
storyteller.
Stella would show up, but
Phil
that was
Cesario. Russell
so
Soul.
the kids had access to the building and the schoolyard, and that's how we got away with telling these stories. And occasionally, you would imagine Mr. Boyd is around somewhere. These kids are just not completely unsupervised.
Right.
So that's how
Yeah.
that would work. So then when we we went on hiatus and they they sold a bunch of props and stuff and then we came back. And when we came back, um, Hit Entertainment had purchased Lyric Studios.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Okay. And so there was a whole new world that needed to be created because Hit Entertainment in London, uh, they all wanted something new and different. But we wanted it to kind of have the same sort of thing where there was an exterior and an interior with somewhat notion of adult supervision or it's a location of whatever. So, Jocelyn Stevenson, do you know who she is?
Yeah, she's a great
Oh
friend of
my
ours. We've
goodness.
had her on
Yes.
before.
I love
Yeah.
Jocelyn so much. She's so great. Previous guest. She's so lovely.
Have you interviewed Jocelyn?
We have. Yeah, she's the best.
Absolutely. She's so
Yeah,
great.
she's so great.
Yep.
Good
So
friend of
so
ours.
We
so
have Crocker
creative.
Walk, match a school bus, and
Yeah.
Yeah,
she's
yeah,
so
yeah.
great.
She was living in Scotland, and she may still be living in Scotland. I don't know. But she was working for Hit
Maybe.
Entertainment. And then Cheryl was pulled back in when it came. And so Jocelyn flew to Texas, and Cheryl was on phone or video in this meeting, and we were concepting the new world. So uh, Cheryl came up with this notion of a caboose, and she had pictures. I guess in her in her neighborhood or not far from where she was living, someone had an old caboose, and she brought that up. And then we talked about what is this? You know, it's a park, and maybe it has a community center in the park. So we would call this the community center. And then I so love the whole caboose thing, and I don't know how I allowed myself to come up with this really strange idea of putting the caboose up against this community center building and cutting the back side of the caboose off and 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 welding it, not literally, but welding it architecturally to this building. So that's how we came up with this. And then we knew we needed levels, so here's some levels. And then here
Right.
we have our wheelchair access because it's a public space. And then we have this play area, and this is a
Yep. And yeah, for singing and dancing and all that. Yep.
yeah, and we could cover this up sandbox, so we could use it as
Yeah,
that.
and there was like a slide,
Yeah, and there
for
was
Yep.
there was was there a slide here that
well, with it looks like a picture, no,
I
but
don't
I
I
think it
don't
was added or something
I
like
don't I don't I don't know. You
later
could
There may
tell
on.
have been
me.
one, and maybe like the gazebo, maybe it was taken out like later on or something.
No, I now again, you guys might know way more about this than I remember, but I don't remember there being a slide here, but I could be wrong because I have these two
Yeah.
swings here, and you can see where they worn out the grass. And then I, wanted some other level and
Hmm.
some way to promenade for a song, and so now
Yeah, so they can so they can run around for a little some
we have a water
choreography for
feature
something.
there with real water in
Right.
it,
Hmm.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
sometimes they would like there was a song called "The Duckies Do" where they would have like ducks like in there.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
you could stand
One
here
song.
and
Yeah,
look down in there, and then there was a place to
Yeah.
get to it from behind, and you could do that.
Hmm.
And a little park bench and whatever. And over here is the gazebo, and we'll get to that in a minute.
and then
Yeah.
But
the idea bench.
and the idea bench. And
Yeah.
did did I ever tell you about the carving on the stone on the wall behind the idea bench?
I don't know that you did.
Okay, so let me continue on here. And if there's a better view of that, I'll show you. So I don't know if there's anything else to this is a little shed unit here. Actually, this is a vertical support post to the architecture in the room, and that's another vertical support post in the architecture in the room. This is a composite photograph. You can see this is where it
Hmm.
jimmy jammies together.
Yeah.
The technical term, jimmy jammy. Okay, so
To
Yes.
the caboose.
right. And I went and digitally added this higher stuff here because our psych basically stopped like there. But all of this was real. I didn't add things to the photograph. This came out and was a camera port, so you could shoot back across the park. I felt I needed to
Okay.
put light here to show that this caboose was actually sitting on some tracks. So I did that.
Right.
So
That's
then,
actually the light thing. I actually never even really noticed that. Like when I
yeah.
watched the show, that's actually really interesting.
Yeah, there's one there, and it goes across there, and you
Yeah,
can
right,
see.
okay.
Because sometimes you do that because you just don't want a giant black hole in video. So that was that. Let me see if there's anything else here. Oh, it's the whole thing. You could go up here, but we never went up there. It's not, you couldn't even support a person up there, I don't think. So let's see what else here. So if there's another shot of this central area here, I'll tell you about that. So here's this
Hmm.
side of the world over here again. This was another camera port. You could go behind the wall, pull that off, and shoot across to these other areas. Okay.
Yeah.
These were real trees. This was all giant, huge pieces of white carved foam, and all of this greenery. It was thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars, was all flame proofed greenery. Okay. So it was safe for everyone. Here is the gazebo.
Yes. Yep.
And I don't know how long we kept the gazebo. I liked the gazebo, but I truly understood when it came to shooting the gazebo. Uh, uh, Lighting had a problem trying to light people in the gazebo. They were always stuck in semi-gray light and darkness or whatever. And
Mm.
then the
Yeah.
gazebo was always a gazebo. And so I remember, and oddly enough, most gazebos would have the same level around here. but I pulled this down so we could sit there or stand there. But I Jim Rowley, and I think Jeff Gittle also said, "Hey Bob, that gazebo is killing us here. We love it, but can we do something else?" And then we ended up because then it became a versatile surface to be able to use.
Yeah,
Okay.
then it became more of kind of like a stage, like they would use it as a stage a bunch
Oh
of
yeah,
times.
for
Um,
many, many things.
yeah, and with the gazebo, what I remember most is there was an episode in I think yeah, it was in season 7, so the first season to use that whole set. What I remember most about that was there was an episode where everyone was kind of like getting ready for this band concert, and then like later on in the episode there was a band like playing in
Yeah.
the gazebo.
I may have a picture of that, but I'm not sure. So now we're going inside the community center, which was in an entirely different studio. So
Oh yeah.
we would watch them go into the caboose, and then we would cut to watching them come in the room. And I have a different view of this room, and I'll show you where that is now. But I just wanted to show you that I designed this quilt and we made the quilt, and we had it as something you could close and then use this area as if you're coming on stage or whatever. We had a real fish tank with real fish in it
Oh yeah,
that
I
we
remember the fish tank, yeah.
we would have to replace occasionally because the fish found themselves not to be alive,
Right.
every now and then. These doors opened and you could put a cameraman back there. The cameraman would go behind this wall and they would shoot intimate stuff in here. Um,
The windows, those are beautiful.
those windows you can buy like a pebbled plastic. And so I didn't want to frost them, but the wall behind the windows was only about 3 feet away. So I painted a little grass and maybe some faraway trees, but because it was pebble glass and we lit it, it just looked like depth of field back there. Okay. So we got away with that. Blah, 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 blah. I think we're good here. Let's continue on. So here's the other view. So
Yep.
when people, and here is the caboose shape cut attached to the building. It's kind of really strange. And
Huh.
we couldn't show the opening here because the opening was nowhere in this studio space. It would not show the park because there was no park back there. So, and then I came up with this idea of having this thing that would pull out and go back in. And all this stuff was drawers that were really usable. But we needed the singing and dancing area, and we didn't want this to be out there all the time. This whole window came out. I know Fred loved putting a camera back there so we could see somebody coming from the other end,
Yeah.
singing and dancing, going to there and then going off camera.
Yeah.
He loved that. And now you're seeing yourself actually in the studio. So there's studio lights and you know.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And
Beautiful
we'll
set.
move on. And that's
Yep.
just a close-up view of that area.
Yep, in the bookshelf whenever they would like do a reading episode or something.
They
Yeah, or
would.
just there just for a song for a certain thing
Yeah, yeah,
for what
yeah.
they want to do over there.
So, and here's another case where
Yeah,
you
yeah,
see,
right, the fish tank, right.
yeah, the fish tank, but you see this little hot spot here? All of these, and you can see actually light there and light here.
Hmm.
We didn't want these to just be dark holes in video. So this little part right here hid some LED lights or something that allowed us to just glow these to be not too dark. And that's just nuts and bolts. This has nothing to do with Barney, by the way. It just is in there. But isn't it lovely? Okay,
That is lovely. That's
I,
actually really cool. Wow.
I'm going to move on. And there it is. There it is again. So, woohoo. So this was the we don't want that. The gazing globe. You remember the gazing globe? And let's show you where that ended up. So this was the sketch for it. And I knew that this was something we could buy. That's something we could buy, to help us put this together. There was the finished gazing globe.
There you go.
And so these things were on a pivot and they could spin around. Okay. And there's a wire going out. Where's the, oh, somewhere's in here, there's a wire. And let me show you where that wire
Right,
is.
okay.
And there's the wire right there being
For the land
hidden
of
by,
make-believe video.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
some hay. So we could plug this in and these things would be spinning around. And I don't know, I think this thing could glow or something. I can't remember
I think
exactly.
so. Looks like it.
So this is at Universal in Florida. And so we had to spend our time hiding signs that would say Kodak film sold here.
Yeah, right. Like
Ah,
hide all of like the branded
Right.
stuff. Yeah.
So we went to a location scout there, had to take photographs of all of this stuff and get somewhat of an idea of what that was. And then in Texas, come up with the fabric for what this was and kind of the size that it was, build it in Texas, and then take it there and cover up stuff. Look at this thing covering up whatever that sign is. Just
Yeah.
yeah.
a rag hanging there. This was a lucky monkey. We didn't. I don't think that that was proprietary to any sort of commercial something. So we just left that. Okay. So
And
Yeah,
and
there's
I
piano.
remember that I
Yep.
remember that
I
episode.
remember that
Yeah.
episode too.
The big
Yep.
piano where they were playing
yeah.
This Old Man.
Right. And so this was
Right, okay.
this was a slide, and so hence there's a hair on it or something. So yeah. And so let me tell you, when I was given the task to do this, I didn't want it to be just a straight line. So Bob had to make it more complicated. So because that's who he is. So each one of these had mattress foam block underneath it. These did, that did, these did. So when you stood on it, it went down, but when you got off of it, it popped back up again. Okay?
Okay.
So it act like a real piano,
Yeah.
a real
Yeah.
piano.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah,
so
look at all
yeah, so in
these.
that way, dinos won't can be saved when any of them like stepping on it.
Yeah, yeah,
It's
yeah. And
Barney
of
and
course,
BJ in the
and
case or
of
something.
course, in post, we were ding dong, ding dong, ding. So
Yeah, yeah, the sound effects people were putting posts, and yeah, it's for Super Sing Circus.
We got Super Singing
Yeah,
Circus. We got Dr. TikTok's clock
this
machine or something.
Dr. TikTok's
yeah,
wagon where he repairs clocks and time and whatever. So this was again, here's a case you're asking questions about designing for Barney. Well, because it's a fantasy and he shows up within a Barney's world fantasy,
Yeah,
even though Dr. TikTok is not Barney, it should look something wonderful because it comes from Barney's
yeah,
imagination
yeah.
or helping you with your imagination through
hmm
Barney. So that's the point of coming up with something like that. And I wanted
Yeah,
it to look like it's kind of an old world wagon, with the
yeah,
walls that are tilted like that. And uh, these uh, these things are already something I had found already and designed around them. So, and then here's the inside of that, and we could actually see farther inside where there's all these clock faces and stuff. So that was kind of cool. So
yeah, and
then,
of course the main set for that video too.
and then the
yeah,
prop from the Valentine's Day video, the last one.
yeah, this one here was the
Right.
rhyming machine. Roses are red, violets are blue.
Yeah,
Kaboom! That thing would come out, and you could hear it, whatever you talk into there. And then, of course, these are from the circus video,
yep.
these guys here. And you'll see some of that later on towards the end. And I can't remember what video this was in, but this is like made of real Tinker Toys. You know, the old Tinker Toys where it has the
I
circle thing
remember it
and
was for an
put the
episode.
sticks in it, and then this was tissue paper, and
Yeah, not
this
Okay,
was a
I don't
controller that
remember.
was off camera.
judging by the balloons, maybe it was for some maybe someone was having like a party or something. I can't exactly remember.
Yeah, I don't remember, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah, that was for
Yeah.
the beach video.
Points
Or
Beach
no,
So
Party, yep.
yep.
so yeah, Chris, you had reminded me that we were able to shoot this video in Studio A, which had the treehouse in it, the
Was
outside of the school
yeah, it was like
yard,
the
and the school itself was in
yeah,
this
the last
room.
video. There were
And that's right. So we
shots, yeah.
cleared all that out to put this in Studio A because we needed a much bigger studio than Studio B to do this. So this is how this would work, and it's so cool because I would do these sketches, okay? And then my set designer and my art director would look at all this stuff. My set designer would look at it and I would have some sense of scale here, but things weren't drawn exactly to scale. So then I would talk to James, the guy I told you, the older man that I hired, and then he would draft all this up. And then my art director, Elizabeth, would come in and she would find all the stuff we needed to decorate this thing, send shoppers out. They would take Polaroid pictures and um, and then they put them in a folder before I even saw them, so and tape them so I could go through them and go, oh, what is that? Let's get that. Let's get this. What about that? Where did you get, So that's how all this would work. And then there was a scene shop in Dallas that would take our drawings and our color, build all of this, and then truck it from across town, bring it to the studio, set it up, and then we would have it would then be decorated and other stuff would be painted if we had a floor like this. All this sand, and we had all this greenery too. So we had Kelly, who was our greens person, that's what we called him, and then I asked for just a ton of sand to be brought into the studio, and we made a beach, and then we had to have the sky beyond, and then we had to have the water beyond, and then so that's coming up here. So then how that
I know.
sketch, so let's go back for a minute and go, okay, so I did this and I had a sign here and I had these lights here and something, 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 something. We don't know what that is. It was just stuff. And translated, it became
Wow.
these lights that there. And look at we have a shark's jawbone here and all of this stuff that my wonderful art director would find. And I said, oh, let's make all these different colors. Let's make this a fun place. So we needed the level. And so I did this and I said, let's wrap a bunch of rope around it. This is all carved foam, white beaded foam carved like that in this greenery. Kelly, our greens person, got these shipped into us. I want to think she got these shipped into us from Florida, but they're real palm trees. And we they were used in this video, and so we get these lights and stuff would show up. I go, oh, that's cool. Put that up there. That's great. Whatever. And then we have Dandy Sandy Seaside Store. Okay. Snack
Yeah,
Shack.
which was the location that Mr. Boyd worked at, like in the video.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
So now we got
right.
sand thrown around on here, and these are actual boards put on the studio floor. So then we go, and so here it is with a
Yep.
different view. And I wanted a different entrance into, I just didn't want to come in off camera. So this was our entrance to the place. And then, make these different colors. That'd be fun. So, and look at all those palm trees that was brought in.
Oh
That was
yeah.
so
It was
cool.
great.
This back here was just a vertical board, painted that color, and then I had them take a blue cellophane and cut it into strips like this, and then twist them and tape it down so that the twists would catch light as if they were waves whenever the camera moved. So it's
Okay.
just all that little detail.
Okay. Gotcha.
So there's a
There it
view of
is.
that. And there's all that sand, tons of sand.
Yep, where they'd have like the hula dancers in that one scene like come out and
They
dance.
they
Yeah.
they
Oh
did.
right, yeah. Right.
And so these we had a small what do I want to call it? Uh, a thing that pushed the sand around. We kept it
Yeah.
in the studio so that we could get places in here to put a cameras in here. And then we were doing a wide shot, we cover that all up and go back again. So yeah, it was very cool. So now we're at a concept drawing for Barney's 10th anniversary video.
Yep.
Singing
You
Dance for
remember, you
Barney.
remember
Yep.
that one, Jake?
Yeah, where they brought
Yep.
back like the
Absolutely.
a lot of like the earlier Barney
Yeah.
kids.
Oh,
Yeah.
so cool.
So what we did there was it was a compilation, as you well know, of
Yeah.
some of the high points of the last 10 years. And so we use this as a springboard for singing and dancing. Then we would segue into Barney, you know, the rocket ship show or whatever, you know.
hmm
So this was the concept. And again, we had these giant books, and that was a dancing level and yada, yada, yada. So let's move on from there. These were details to that castle coming
Okay.
out of a book. So, every video has to have this nuts and bolts reality stuff drawn up so someone can build it, and it's all dimensioned and to scale. So that thing becomes each one of these things, and then these are different views, a top view, side view, whatever. And then that's the final product from those drawings.
That's
So
so cool.
so these you could see right here, there was a I don't think that was monofilament, but it was a small little cable that held that up. And in here too, there was some cables, and we can't even see them. I don't even know how that happened, to be honest with you. So, and then we had like faraway places from other stories.
Yeah.
These flowers, you'll see more of these. This is like wire frames, and those are like white nurses' knee-high stockings stretched over wire and painted. You'll see more of those as we go forward. So let's move on. And so here's more. So, we did this part of Mother Goose, I think, was the old woman in the shoe. Did we not do that?
Yeah,
And
right.
yes. And I
Yeah.
can't remember where this
So
cow showed up. I think I had this and just put it on the set. We had it from another video. This is Barney's rocket ship video, and there's the rocket ship. So, and then more from that, and these penguins.
Yep.
And so now we're at Tortoise and the Hare series 14, 15, number 14, 15, 16. PBS number 514. So this was the concept drawing. And I knew when I drew this that this was going to be a flat cutout. That all was going to be a flat cutout. And it was some depth there. And so we did that. And there it is, the finished
Yeah.
product. So we had to have, I think this is the tortoise's house. And I did the tortoise's house as if it was the shape of going into her house
hmm
with her shell shape. So anyway, this is all just cut out, painted stuff, you know. And of course,
Yeah.
there
Yep.
you are.
Invitation to Fun video where they Alice in Wonderland, kind of like a little
Yes.
Yeah.
sketch they did. The tea party. Yep. Yep.
Yep. And there
Yep.
we
Yep.
got
Yep.
Selena Gomez in there.
Yes, she is.
Yep.
There she
And
is, right
yep.
there.
And yeah. That's Catherine, Beth, and Mario and
Nick.
Nick.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. I remember the
There they
four of
are.
them.
So again, we're in like just cut out, painted land, flat stuff hanging, cut out, painted. The lighting designer did all this breakup on a white
hmm
background, and it was so wonderful. And again, my art director, Elizabeth Felton, I said I would love to have a double layer of tablecloth there and something more fancy, whatever. I don't know if I drew this up, I might have. But then she finds all of this stuff, on the internet and got releases to use it in the video from the manufacturers. This is all part of the gig of getting stuff done. So this was a wire chair. I said, can we decorate this better and make it, So there we are, and they would just do all this wonderful stuff here. So here we're at one of my favorites. This is Mother Goose.
Yeah.
So
Right time with them. Yep.
Yeah. Yep.
yeah, yeah. And so again, with Santa Claus, you have to say to yourself there, well, where does Santa Claus live and how are you going to come up with that with expectations? And here you have Mother Goose. Well, where does Mother Goose live? And so it needs to be something unusual and special, but still kind of old world looking and
Yeah, kind of like a dainty looking house. Yeah.
cottage,
Yeah, a cottage.
but
Yeah.
look like something European or old world, whatever. So this was the concept. So a little aside here, one of the things I would do is my wife, Susan, I would be working on Barney and I'd say, "Hey, Susan, I want to take you to the studio today and show you the set we just made." And so what I would do is I would give her a print of this image and I would walk her into the studio. I say, "Close your eyes." I would have her eyes closed. I would stand her in this exact position that this drawing was made for the set. And I would have say, "Okay, hold this in front of your eyes, open your eyes," and she'd be looking at this rendering. And it says we have 5 minutes. Oh, that's no, that's a reminder to me. Uh, so I'm not going to do that now. Um, so let me move on here. So, and then I would say, pull the picture down from your face, and then, well, she wouldn't see the model. That's the model I made for this, but that's what she would see.
Oh, yeah. That's such
Yeah.
a good set.
So,
Wow.
Yes. That's
yeah,
so cool.
All the flowers and yeah.
this was all made of 1/4 inch thick mattress foam cut on a saw and then laid on there because it was flexible. And what else here? So we have this turret here. When we go to the inside, you'll see that turret. Um, so
Yep.
let me hold on a minute. Hold on a minute, gentlemen. I had set this thing that I cannot do now, and I'm going to say no. So that's the interior sketch of what it should. So there's the turret, there's the window. And again, this isn't exactly to scale. Things are off a little bit, but it gives us the idea. Then that's how that turned out.
Yep.
So it's,
Yeah.
it's very much like the sketch, but and then
Yeah,
we did
where they dance to the O King Cole or something like that.
yeah, and here we did Hickory Dickory Dock over here
Yep.
when
Yeah,
and
yeah, right. The whole medley of it.
yeah,
Right.
so this was part of the model picture, and then that's the location
hmm
of that same model. And
Yep.
so I wanted a very tall fireplace, like it was a used fireplace. It's not just an ornament, because when people did fireplaces back in the day, they would use them to cook and whatever. So I wanted that same look, that same feel. Okay. So this was an object we
Okay.
found, and I had them paint it that way. All of this was designed and built, all of that was, as well as the clock.
Yeah. Yep.
And I don't know if you could see it here, but there's
I definitely
barely
remember
a
this.
little dark line here where we had the mice. So we
Yeah.
had we
Right.
had we had mice on a stick, a little dowel, and there was a person behind there, and we would run the
Uh-huh.
mice down through here and go all the way up as we sang Hickory Dickory Dock. Okay?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Such a cool clock.
So yeah, that's so this was this I have Santa here from my other model video, from another video model, just to put him scale in there. And there we are again. Okay. So great, so cool.
Absolutely.
So I when I say so great, so cool, I'm going, it uh, my art director again, I didn't say get that plate, get this. She just got all of this stuff, shows it to me. Some things I go, oh my God, they're wonderful. And other things I go, yeah, not so much. These birds here are just foam covering up some hatchets. We're at the top of this odd light fixture. I like the light fixture. So I had them make these birds that fit on top of the hatchets. I don't know even know what that means. It's like these things came up here and became a hatchet. I don't know, but it's all good. And there's a mural on the wall that went all the way around on the cyc there.
Oh yeah,
That's
right. Okay.
the cyclorama, and there's a different view. And then I
Yep.
had them paint on these walls here, and then this turret. So I'm going to, okay, so this is
Yeah, well, we go.
pop
Yep.
pop wheelie.
Yep.
hmm
So the idea here was to, it was supposed to be a factory. I didn't have room to put a factory, although we needed a big area to sing and dance. So again, I had these vertical corrugated fiberglass, and I put just cut out wheels back there as if it was part of an inner factory. Okay. So more of that sort of thing. And we know we use this machine where the kid who came to fix his wheel from his bike was all bent up, and they put it in this machine, and it came out being fixed, and it all
Yeah.
these things turned, and that went around, and there was light and gears and whatever. So I'm not sure what we use that for some reason, and I can't remember exactly what, but and there's that machine. These came from toys that I bought and turned them upside down into something else to be here. I figured if I disguised them enough, I wouldn't have to get a release on them, and so I did. And no one's caught me so far, so there you go. That's good. Oh, so here we go. Here
Yep.
we
There's
are
the
at the
space video.
concept
Yeah.
drawings of the space video. So I needed to get a sense of scale of what this was going to look like inside, but I also needed the scale of, like, if we're inside here and you're that tall, what how does that look like in a 3x4 frame when you're shooting this? And of course we did this, which showed up later. So then that's the interior
There you
of it.
go.
Yep. There's the control panel. Yeah.
right? These are those are salad bowls there from Container Store. These are trash cans from Container Store, and I had them put neon
Oh wow.
down through the middle of that.
Yeah.
Um, and let me see if there's anything else here. So this was the big open window, so they could shoot through here. Then this is the opposite view. So our camera was their shot was there looking back this way.
Hmm.
This was outside, and the stars were basically old school. It's called a poke hole star drop, where you take duvetine and you poke holes in it with a punch. And then behind it was what we call a rain curtain. It's that metallic, uh, you know, theater drape that's all shiny and shimmers.
Hmm.
Well, you put that
Yeah.
behind it and a little air on it, and all those would twinkle. So anyway, this was as if it was going to be a movie screen, and as if it was going to open with this iris. And we did use this, but we used it as if it was open. Corey, this young man helping us, he's got a stick here with a sponge on the end covered with a piece of fabric. So he could hit each one of these lights and turn them on because they were battery operated lights way back when that you would put in your closet and you would hit it and it would come on as a light. So none of those were
Okay.
wired. And so I had them put those in there. And right before we shot, he would go click, 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 click. Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. That's cool.
That's more of how the sausage is made
Yeah,
right
Yep.
there.
I had this Daniel Vega, previous guest. She's so great. And yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, Robert,
Chip and Keisha.
Have you had
Chip
these?
Keisha, yep.
Yeah, great,
We had
great.
the fourth one. We've had her on.
So
Kim.
yeah, this is all, if you go to Home Depot and you see like sheets of pink foam or blue foam, insulation.
Yeah.
That's what this
Hmm.
is, and it's sanded and painted and glued to the wall, So this is a real astronaut, as you well know from the video.
Yep.
Hmm.
And now that's a concept for Maybe's Planet. Okay.
Yeah. Yes.
So, and
There you
then
go.
that is Maybe's Planet.
Amazing.
We did this huge mural on the wall to show the beyond of Maybe's Planet. This was all carved foam, and we never did a shot straight into this because it wasn't very deep at all. It just looks like you went in and you went somewhere else. And going back to the thing I said earlier was this is wire, and then we stretched nurses' white knee-high stockings over these things, and then we spray painted them. This is, white. They're not pipe cleaners, but it's foam,
Hmm.
whatever. And then again, this is greenery, and we painted it, whatever. This is more of that foam stuff I just showed. I mean, the wire stuff with the stretchy material on it. These are pipe cleaners. These are packing peanuts. The
Yeah,
packing
like
peanut.
this, like the stuff you get in like boxes and stuff. Yeah.
Right, and there
Yeah.
they are. So
Yep. There. Yeah, there you go.
I had them put in
Oh yeah.
containers and painted,
Okay.
Wow.
Right.
and then we could do that with them because I knew I wanted this blue part and that. I didn't matter if it was lighter, it didn't matter to me. And then we got, squiggly balloons here, These guys here was bent metal pipe, and then this was mattress foam wrapped around it where we didn't see the seam. And then I had them take rope and wrap it around there to scrunch it like that and then paint it.
Okay.
So that's,
Pretty cool.
and there's a
Yep.
whole
There's
a whole bunch
yep
of those,
close up of that.
Yeah.
So.
Wow.
Yeah, 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 yeah. So, and then here's
Oh yeah. Why? Okay. Okay. I know what this is going.
let's go to the
Okay.
fair. So that's the
Yep.
model for the set of that.
Yep. They would put it to kind of do like some sort of like a concert, some sort of
Yeah, yeah, they did. They
with
did a
that.
First
whole
video where we got to
perform.
meet Riff.
performance thing.
Yeah, that's what it means. Like, yeah, that's right. Okay.
So notice that this grass is all brown. When we first went there to do a location scout, it was in the spring and it was gorgeous. Everything was green and wonderful. And then when we went there to shoot, and we had to shoot, it was already set up. Um, all the grass was that brown, and you can see some of that brown sticking out here. I went in and
Okay.
did a color part to this photograph
Yeah.
and
Yeah. Okay.
and sent it to the producers saying, you know, if you don't make this other than brown, it's just going to look really bad. And they ended up doing it in the they ended up having to, I don't know if they had to rotoscope it, which means they would have to go into each frame and color it, but they ended up doing that, and it cost a bunch of money for them to color the grass for this video in the end. But yeah, this was that was part of that show. This was a video uh, concept for a girl's bedroom. And you can see this rectangle shows you like a 3x4 camera view, just to give you, but this never happened. Okay. So, and I don't know why, I can't remember even what the video was. And then there's a boys' room version, and that's this. Okay. So now we're at Barney Around the World, I think.
Celebrates around the world, right? Okay.
So we're in Ireland here. So that was
Oh
the
yeah,
set
okay.
model for Ireland. Now we're in Ireland.
Okay.
And
Okay.
That's what this is
now,
for. Because I remember when we spoke before, I was trying to remember what that was for. Yeah.
yeah. Because they eventually did like Irish dancing here.
Yeah,
Do you remember that?
they did a lot of
Right. Yeah.
episodes and videos that they would like explore different countries and stuff.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah. Yeah. When I went on like to like some sort of like a
Like Egypt and Kenya and
Right,
yeah,
right.
yeah, where they
Mexico.
kind of
Yeah.
switch to kind of different formats of the show where they're going to like different
Yeah,
like
locate.
Yeah,
places. Yeah.
so here they're in Japan, and there they are.
Yep.
And
Yeah.
that was a shot while we were
Yep.
shooting. So the concept was, it did this, that, then those things were cut out. They were blown
Hmm.
up, cut out, and then painted to become that.
Yep.
And
Hmm.
all this was hanging from above. And now this was the same video, but
Okay.
see, look at this.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hmm.
These are some things I found on the internet and hung them there because they would twirl around and catch light. All of these things were came from the model. There's a shot there. Now we're in Kenya, I think, and now we're in Kenya. So
Yep.
obviously we never shot this whole thing like that. Things were much closer, but that was the design for. And we didn't want, again, you're talking about Barney. Is it Barney? Well, it's realism, but it's not. You see this? It's all kind of stylized.
Yeah.
All of
Hmm.
this stuff was stylized.
Kind of like
Yeah.
cartoony looking in a way.
Yes,
Hmm.
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So that was always a task to try to make things that turned out so
Yeah.
wonderful. It's so good. See all of this, it was just stylized, and I
Yeah.
wanted it to have an African flair.
Yeah. There. Oh yeah. There you go. Christmas star
Yeah. So
It's either that or
again,
like one of the winter episodes. But yeah, that's cool. That's
or something like that. Yeah.
yeah, that's cool.
so and
Right.
here you can see that lit up again,
Yeah.
uh, Chris,
Hmm.
underneath there.
Yeah.
So
Right there. Yeah. Hmm.
and so look at the leaves. They're all the same leaves of the park, but I brought these in to get some evergreens in there to look more Christmas-like. But there was a
Yeah.
crew that spent
Hmm.
all night dressing this set. So when we came in the morning, it was like, whoa,
Yeah.
so cool.
Oh yeah, I remember.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
now, So
Yeah. Yep.
I don't think there's a view of this. This is what I wanted to tell you earlier. So why do you know why this is called the idea bench?
So like if the kids had like an idea on like a
That's what I was
situation, they
thinking.
would sit in the idea bench, they would sing the idea song, and then like in
Yeah, where they go around.
as it says in the lyrics, a new idea will come to me. And so they get an idea on like what to do in a situation.
Okay, so let me tell you the origin of the
Hmm.
idea bench. I eventually turned this into a
Yeah.
swivel. There is a Victorian chair where you could sit like this and sit like that and face each other. Okay,
Yeah.
this was on a swivel, as you well know. On this wall, on the other side here, on a stone, there is carved JH and JS. So this is what happened. When Jocelyn
Oh yeah,
Stevens
right. Okay.
when Jocelyn Stevenson showed up, we were talking about stuff, and she would say that she and Jim Henson would go across the street to the park to brainstorm stuff. And she said it just came to pass that it seems like every time we sat in this one bench is where our great ideas came from. So we ended up calling it the idea bench. And I said,
Oh
well, what a great
wow.
idea. Let's put an idea bench in our set and we can use it swirling around during a song or getting an idea. But no one knew that on the other side of this wall, we had carved in the stone uh, JH and JS. Okay.
Wow. That's
So,
really
so,
cool.
That
so
is
cool.
that is
Great.
so lovely.
That is
Yeah.
very lovely.
Yeah. 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 So more of the, and so here's a case
Hmm.
where we got rid of the gazebo and it became many, many
Yeah.
things. And so it was so much better to do this because you could have someone dancing coming all the way down to here and all the way. It's so much better. So I was schooled. So I just love
Yeah, that's
this
right.
Hmm.
picture.
Yeah,
So
where Kyle, Jeff,
yeah. So
Adam.
I'm sitting
Adam. Yeah.
I'm sitting in the whenever we'd have a brainstorming production meeting, we just got a script, we all read the script, then we all meet together, and sometimes the writer's there and sometimes not. I don't think the writer was there at this time. And so but the script was a PBS show, and it said we go to Santa's workshop, and I'm going, whoa, 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 wait a minute. We don't have the money to fulfill the expectations of going to Santa's workshop. And as opposed to live theater, where you can't touch a script,
Yeah.
you can move things around a little bit, you could drop some lines, but you can't do any wholesale anything. With the scripts that were introduced to us, if there was an issue or a problem, or I could add things to the script to make it better visually, we could do that because they were fresh off the press.
Yeah.
So in this case, they said, well, we want a Christmas, we want to, and so then all of a sudden, just in a flash, I got this idea. I said, let's do this. Let's go to the place at Santa's toy shop where no one ever gets to see. And that's the place where all the presents are being wrapped before they get onto Santa's sleigh. And I said, we can't, and this obviously is in the caboose park because
Yeah. Yep.
there's the gazebo. So I said, I'm going to make a wall of presents and a wall of presents to hide our location. And actually, this thing on the ground here is actually hiding grass that's in the park. Okay. So,
Okay.
and I said,
Okay.
why don't we do this? Why don't we take our little people, which is what they wanted to be referred to,
Performers of BJ
and
Riff.
have them be, they never get to be themselves on camera. you know? And I
Which
said,
I'm sure that they have so much fun doing it. Like it
oh
was
my gosh,
like three elves. Like that's perfect.
when they found out they weren't going to be hidden behind a costume and they could be themselves as and so I said, why don't we have them be elves singing a rap song about rapping? And I went, and it was like kaboing, and so it was so great. And so it ended up being so did you interview Lindy?
We have not interviewed Lindy, no.
Oh, so why did I think you guys did? I don't know why. So anyway, Santa shows up and
Lindsay.
there's his book, and this whole apparatus here came from the Santa video, the earlier one. So, and there we have, wrapping paper and, so it was so cool. The poor PA that he wrapped presents for 2 weeks every day, tons of them. So now we're at um,
Yep.
Santa's house.
Yep.
So as I told you earlier, I was thinking I wanted Santa's house not to be some grand thing. I wanted it to be a cozy place with a low ceiling and just but full of character. I was wanting it to be full of character, old school character. So then that ended up being that. So from the rendering, I had this going on and those there and toys hanging around. And so this is what we ended up with. And it's so great. So happy with that.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it's such a good
So,
video too. Barney's Night Before Christmas.
Me
oh, it
too.
is.
One of my other favorites too.
As I told you earlier, it is one of my favorites also.
Yeah.
So this is his
Yep.
chair, and that's his, Mrs. Claus's chair. And I think we
Yeah,
had her
okay.
there knitting or doing something. I can't remember. But, things are hand painted and, toys around, whatever. See, look at all of this. So great scenic artist, Sergey. It's from Russia, painted all this stuff. So good, so good. And this is what I told you before. This is his like drafting table, and we designed that from scratch and built it where he's designing toys, and then he puts the toys wrapped here, and that the train goes off, and it's sent off to the
Yeah.
toy shop. So then
To
here is
yeah, there
our
it is.
train in blue screen land, so we could
Mm-hmm.
show it, So and there it is there.
There.
There
So
it is.
it's always dangerous to put a clock on camera because if you're going to deal with continuity and changing of time, you're having to keep up with that all the time. So
Yeah.
Yeah, that was
yeah.
for the Christmas our favorite time of year song for that
Yep.
video.
And as I was telling Chris earlier, Jake, that we had stagehands over here which pulled this train off with them in it.
Okay, right. Uh-huh. Yeah,
It was not motorized or anything.
right.
So then I said, well, let's show the evidence of these elves here. And so again, we made all of these aprons, and these are like little elf hats or something. I can't remember what it is in there, but this was their spot where they would get their stuff to go start their day or whatever. So,
Yeah.
and then, all of this was trying to make it fanciful, and these notions here of this is a foam, round foam, and we carved those in there and painted that. Wanted it to look old school, wanted it to look, Nordic or whatever. So, and then on the floor, we had the globe, a map of the globe painted here.
Right, right. Okay, yeah, I see that.
And then more detail there. This
Yeah,
never
okay.
went anywhere. It's just like, but all of this painting here, to
Oh yeah.
make it wonderful.
Like Barney like, yep, there it is.
There
The
it
main set
is.
for Super Saiyan Circus, like I was saying earlier.
So this was a great fun video. We actually had fabric hanging in the
Yeah, okay,
studio.
yeah, I see that.
And it was really cool. These are just plastic horns that I found, I don't know where, somewhere, some toy store or something. And all this was carved, and this is a great little video. And
Yeah.
this is where we end. This is the end of
Yeah.
our show. And I just thought it would be a great ending here.
Where Steven like left Barney.
Yeah, and so we
Yeah,
we
like
we
from
have
his
a
feet. Yeah.
muscle costume suit on him, and he's lifting Barney up, and he got 500 pounds. It's so cool, so cool. So,
Yeah,
gentlemen,
yeah, yeah. 500 pounds. Yeah.
I probably have three times more of what you just saw in my files, but I think this is it pretty much for me today. So,
Yeah, so well, I guess we can get to like the last three questions that we have on our list.
yes, yeah,
Um
please.
so so doing after doing research on a lot of these things, um I saw that after y your time was done on Barney after so many years that you continued to do more live theater. So after Barney, like what kind of drew you back to working in the live theater space?
Well, and let me say this, for all of the wonderful opportunities to spend a considerable amount of money creating wonderful fantasy, what I missed in my heart was substance and metaphor. Okay. Uh, because, our audience is a young audience and it's fun and lovely, but I wanted some depth. So I wanted to get back to live theater. I did some, I was the resident designer of North Texas School of the Opera for 5.5 years. I did an opera for the Fort Worth Opera,
Oh,
and then
Okay.
did numerous shows at Dallas Theater Center, and then locally in some North Carolina and Austin, Texas, and but I was wanting a deeper, soulful approach to design that Barney did not afford me. So that's what brought me back to the theater.
gotcha.
Nice.
Well, I will
Yeah.
say before we start wrapping this up, I will say we are very grateful for, what you did for Barney and all the wonderful sets that were brought to life because of you and your team's work.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Likewise, what Chris said.
and let me put a button on this because and whenever I work on a show and I thank the people who build things that I design, I tell them that people only know my work after they've passed through the hearts and hands of others.
Yeah.
I cannot build anything. I've never cut anything. I've painted, but until it passes through the hearts and hands of others, I would be I would be anonymous. Okay, so I bless all of them, and throughout my whole career, I championed them and all the talented craftsmen and artists that took my chicken scratchings and turned them into wonderful things. So.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Exactly. It goes to show that, hold up, the cast and crew and the production, the set designers and you got to do and all the rest, and you all were like, you're the whole Barney family.
It is. And my time at Barney was so special, so special. I have friends who worked on television, but most of the television they had to do, and I remember hearing quotes like this: if I have to design another cop office, I am going to throw myself off a building because it's all realism, you know? A lot of what people
Yeah.
do on television is realism, 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 realism. I got to be blessed by being able to do, look at this picture. look at the stuff in the background and all that fantasy. I got to dig down into a part of myself. It didn't have a deep metaphorical foundation, but it was wonderful to be able to fantasize and then create stuff like this. So,
Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah. Oh. Yeah, of course, exactly. So obviously, things that you're doing now, with live theater stuff, obviously, except with that, with that you're doing with that at the now, can you share anything that you're currently working on?
well, there's possibly some pictures, but I'd have to dig through stuff to get them.
No worries.
Um, I
Oh, good.
recently, this past year, I did Charlie and the Chocolate Factory stage show for Casa Mignana Theater.
Nice.
Right.
I
Okay. Cool.
You could look that up, whatever. I
Nice.
I I did a show called Penelope for Stage West locally here. I am going to be doing Hedwig and the Angry Inch. That might not mean anything to your audience, but it was a movie, and it was first a stage production, then a movie. Now back to a stage production, and I am presently every year Christmas Carol that I designed a number of years ago is presented every year at the Zach Theater in Austin. And for them, I got to also do Natasha Pierre and the Great Comet of 1812, a wonderful, dynamic musical. Um, so there's a number of things, yeah, for sure.
Nice.
So
Nice.
and I'm still busy. I'm
Yeah.
still busy now. There's a show, a co-production between Stage West and Dallas Theater Center that opened in Stage West last week called Where We Stand. It's a one-woman show. It's a little difficult to describe. You have to experience it, but
Hmm.
yeah. So I'm luckily the phone is still ringing, and I'm glad to be doing this. So.
Good to hear. That's awesome.
Yeah. That's awesome. That's great to hear, Bob. So obviously, so I'm gonna go to the last question now to Chris. That we with the question we usually ask to every single guest towards the end. Go ahead.
So with the podcast being called Jake's Happy Nostalgia Show, what do you think of when you hear nostalgia? Like, what does nostalgia mean to you, Bob?
Um, Nostalgia means a recollection of a very wonderful experience that you had in your past that you want to revisit. And you either have nostalgic memory, and you want to visit it because it's special for you, and it there's a sense of loving of that experience in the past that is built into the word nostalgia. I know nostalgia sometimes gets a bad rap because it's felt like you're just stuck looking backwards. On the other hand, every human being that exists has wonderful nostalgic memories that they can revisit in their mind. And with stuff like this that still exists in the world, as far as video goes or music or whatever, you can revisit that wonderful time in your life.
Absolutely. Great words to
Yeah,
end on.
absolutely. Thank you so much for those words. Yeah, yeah, exactly. Thanks for that answer.
Well, Bob, thank you so much for this. Yeah, we'll definitely let you know when this goes up and enjoy the
Yeah,
rest of your day.
Yeah,
yeah. Thanks again for the fun, Bob.
give me a heads up when this is going to be aired so I can watch it.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
All right.
yeah, no
All
problem.
right. We'll keep in touch. This is a lot of fun.
Okay, take
Yeah,
care.
Bye.
you too, Bob.
Bye.
Thanks again.
Bye.
Good to meet you again. Bye.
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 And it's goodbye from us as well. We absolutely enjoyed our time speaking with the wonderful Bob Lavallee. keep on the lookout for more wonderful interviews coming your way. And as always, what do we say, Jake?
Yes, keep nostalgia alive together, everyone. So next time, take care. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for tuning in to another wonderful Jake's Happy Nostalgia Show episode. Be sure to follow Jake and the Happy Nostalgia team on social media, check out our website, and stream the show wherever you find your favorite podcasts. And as always, remember to keep nostalgia alive. Bye-bye.